we're smiling. I love it. I love it. Okay. Camera's on. Bring up the actual agenda. 11:11. All right. Welcome to video 3. My name is Samuel Ramirez. I am currently the math instructional specialist for Aldi 9th grade school. Right here with me, I have Miss Amber Moden Pickens. She is the English teacher lead, and I have Ashley Cleaver, that is the biology teacher lead. And we're gonna go over what we did in video 2, implementation process, and this is my committee review team. Okay, so I'm gonna go over what our student purpose is. It's right here on the board as well. Aldi 9th grade students, with our support, will commit to personal excellence. Our reason for our lifelong learning is continuous growth. We want our kids to say, I can learn, experience, and create so that I can communicate effectively when I need help. We, the Mighty Mustangs, teachers and students, will work together, value one another, and embrace the opportunity to make a difference in 1 year's time. I'm gonna give us 30 seconds to pick a norm, and then we'll go over a norm with how we're feeling today and a celebration. Fifteen seconds. Okay. Real quick, do we need any additional time?
Yep.
All right, Miss Ashley, we'll start with you. Out of our norms, what was gravitating to you?
I'm gonna say expect the push, because I know as we're looking at different data and different activities, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but the things that we're saying that we're going to do is gonna help us grow.
I love that. Now, how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say that I'm at an 8.
Oh, that's a good number. Why do you feel like an 8?
It's Monday.
Monday.
It is a brand new week. My team is starting a new topic on sales, and it's always a good topic that the students tend to grasp.
Good. I love that. Do you have any celebrations you want to share with us?
No, not at this time.
All right. Thank you so much. How about yourself, Miss Amber?
I guess I'm going to stay solutions oriented. Just trying to remember that yes, we're gonna assume the best and we all work for children.
Oh, little technical difficulties. 1 second. Solution oriented. How's your mood today?
I'm probably at about a 6.
Oh no.
5.5, 6.
Do you want to elaborate on that 6?
Just with the timing, we're about 11 days out. So, being the teacher lead, trying to keep the team focused with the schedule we have. So just trying to stay solutions oriented, hoping that we haven't, so I guess I could also lean in to look for blind spots, just trying to make sure we haven't missed anything.
Love that. Cool. Any celebrations?
Still standing.
Still
standing.
I love that. I like to make sure that I refer back to these norms and celebrations and hope that our mood will change for the betterment. So Ms. Cleaver, you're at an 8, so I'm hoping to push you to a 10. And Ms. Moden, I would hope to push you to at least a 7 or 8 to make your mood a little bit better for today. Today I am gonna also say I wanna expect the push because I am extremely nervous to work with some awesome people from different departments. And I am currently at an 8 also, just because this is interesting, I'm excited. I don't know, I always like to do things differently, so it always gets me up and going to know that I'm gonna get better. I don't have any celebrations. I guess I could say it's a little celebration. Little man's gonna be doing some baseball today. So we're back in it for I don't know how long. All right, here we go. I already introduced y'all. We already talked about norms. Expectations is I'm open-ended. Throw any ideas. Make sure that you share anything that comes to your mind, especially with the amount of experience that both of you possess. I want to make sure I get the most out of y'all. Who are we? We are all the 9th grade. We're only 9th graders are here on our campus. Our total amount of students is 574. Currently in our accelerator block for Algebra 1, there's 209 with 90% economically disadvantaged. The purpose of this meeting is our review committee team is here to discuss and reflect on the implementation process of cultural connections and sentence starters within our math classroom. We are very excited. We are in testing season with only 11 days of instruction left before our students test in December. After discussion and reflection, we aim to make at least one goal for our next semester students, which is composed of all our emerging bilingual students. Our teacher leads from different contents are here to challenge and push my thinking that will best support the math department. Now, to end the semester with these kids, I had a student that I reached out to for each of my teachers, and this is what they said. For Mr. Benitez, they enjoyed how honest and cool he is because he lets them be part of the class. For Mr. Esparza, the kid was super excited. He says, I want to win those shoes. He's the first teacher to let us aim for something. Mr. Esparza raffles out some shoes every quarter. Miss Everson, she had a lot of kids that wanted to talk to me, but the main thing I got was that this is the first time she understood math and she liked it. So that building a relationship piece. For Mr. Gambirao, one student said, Mr. Rao is funny but strict. He's a good teacher. And for Miss Keller, they said she's straight to the point, no fluff, and she also gave a thank you out loud. Very cool. I know you all know my teachers from hallways and stuff like that. How did that make you all feel reading those little quotes?
I think it's cool because they all show that they value their teachers and they think that and it shows that the teachers are teaching the material. And the kids seem to appreciate it.
Very nice, thank you.
I like the quote for Miss Everson because not only are they enjoying the class, they're also saying that they're understanding math for the first time.
That is true.
Yeah, so data speaks for itself, and maybe we will do a little rabbit hole later, but the data from Miss Everson looks really well. Looks very good. Okay, so turning the page, this is the data we collected. So from observation video 2, I did a lesson rehearsal where I modeled what I wanted from my teachers. Cultural connecting and sentence stems. These are the definitions I came up with. Cultural connections is the creation of learned and shared values, beliefs, and behaviors in a community of interacting with people. Sentence stems, sentence starters are phrases or words that help people begin writing or introduce a thought. Now, the way our lesson rehearsal went was I presented an Algebra 2 lesson. The cultural connection that I made was about shoes and being able to input their ideas of what kind of shoes they like, why do they like those shoes, what can we do with all this process and relate it to math. The sentence starters that I presented for the team was, hey, this is what my ideas are about this specific topic. This is how I perform this problem. Stuff to allow the kids, which were the teachers, just give brief explanations just so they feel confident about what they're doing. Gave a timeline for our people from October 14th to November 4th. It's laid out where each walk I did, I gave them a point for implementation. Could I have gone deeper in depth? Of course, but I didn't want to be too complicated. So as we see here, it's also on your paper. I was able to get to everyone's room at least 2 times. Mr. Esparza was the one I went to the most because of coaching cycles and just being able to be in his room a little more often. and we could see it clearly there. They were awarded 1 point if I saw the cultural connection and or sentence starter stem. Mr. Benitez had 4 points, with cultural connections being 3 from 3 walks and 1 sentence stem starter. Mr. Esparza hit every single time that I was there in the walk. Miss Everson was there for cultural connections, still needs some assistance with sentence stems. Mr. Gamburel, 2 and 2, so he just missed it 1 of each. And Miss Keller had cultural connections, but did not have any sentence stems or starters. Give that a little bit to sink in. I'll give us 30 seconds. Maybe what are some wonderings, thoughts, noticings? Let you know when the 30 seconds are up, and then we'll keep going. Do we need a little more time?
I do have a wondering.
Go.
What is the population that each teacher represents with this instance? Like who teaches?
So currently, everybody is across the board with the same population, with the exception of Ms. Keller. Ms. Keller is co-teaching for special education. Mr. Gamburel, I mean, I can actually pull the dates, we can look at it, that'd be pretty cool. Thank you for that question though, Ms. Moden.
And I guess as you're finding the information, I'm just also wondering the experience with scaffolding and differentiation. Like just to see, like, who needs to lean more into like the sentence stems and sentence starters based on the population in their room.
That's interesting because later on I'll discuss a little bit more where one of my teachers did say he did not believe that he had to do it. So that's an interesting wondering, I like that.
That was gonna be my wondering. Also, what were the expectations? Did they have to, how many did they have to use? Or was it just, these are the strategies, and then when you came in, that's just how many you saw when you came in? Or did you say, I need you to try 2 of each, or?
Ooh, so I think that's part of the communicational standpoint. I just wanted at least 1 time.
Mm-hmm.
If I saw it at least once, I gave it the point. Were there opportunities for multiple points? No, it was just like, okay, are you at least trying to implement it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing above and beyond, great. For example, I know Mr. Esparza ran with it because he found out about that Freyer model, and he was able to allow kids to make their own cultural connections, and he provided a sentence stem every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Versus Miss Keller, she will do the cultural connections, but I'm not sure if she still needs more support with, okay, I don't know where exactly to put these sentence stems because we're not used to it. So looking at that and looking at the data, she does have all the special ed kids. But look at Mr. Rao. Economically disadvantaged are primarily his students, also composed of, I don't see any African American students. That's interesting. Miss Everson has 1 African American student with the majority still eco-dis. She has 41 current immersion bilinguals, but we're gonna assume that they're advanced high. Mr. Benitez, also same type of population, but 50% EB. So it's kind of neutral across the board with the exception of Ms. Keller, and we'll also say Mr. Esparza has the inclusion kids. There's no data on Mr. Esparza's kids, only because he's not part of the accelerated block. Okay. Any other noticing wonderings?
When you walked, did you walk the same period?
No, that's a great question. So for the 3 walks, they were in each different class. So 1 for first period, 1 for 4th period, 1 for 5th period. Miss Keller, I don't know why I didn't get to her fourth period, but that was a missed opportunity. But she lauds about her fourth period, so I'm sure she took care of business in there. Any other noticings or wonderings?
Have there been any conversations with the teachers about their
So,
points?
no. I have not, only because I've just been collecting the data, just making sure that when I do walk in, it's happening, and once I have this video done, then I'll show and display, hey, we're doing great with cultural connections, but now it's time to step up our game with the sense and stems.
Also wondering, or if you can provide us with feedback, once you meet with the teachers, because if Miss Keller and Mr. Esparza is using them, he could easily collaborate so that she has the sentence stems.
So, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my idea for semester 2 is Mr. Esparza leading a CBPL with the Freyer model, because I do think we have a lot of area and room for growth with that Freyer model, because not only will it hit cultural connections every single time, but it allows the kids to start writing out their own thoughts. Little think, write, pair, share, being able just to, especially because the way he has it set up is it's a vocabulary word, and he allows a little bit of time for them to go Google what it is and see. He's monitoring, making sure like, oh, that's not technically right, let's try and Google some more. And so he's doing this with inclusion kids. And so I think it's very powerful to see that group of students. I can only imagine what it can happen in the other classrooms. So.
And maybe you could also use the discourse cards.
Yeah.
For math, to use it like in a CBPL and have them go through and maybe identify which sentence stems they want to implement in each lesson. And that way they can have it on their lesson plans, and then there's another level of expectation of what you should see during your walk.
Set the expectation. Love it. Wow, this is some awesome info, ladies. I love it. I appreciate it. What were your thoughts about the definitions I had for cultural connections and sentence stem starters? Oh shoot. Was I right on the money? Could I change the definition a little bit?
I guess when you walk in and you see or hear the cultural connection, where do you try? Is it supposed to connect to the content, or just in class, just engage with students?
So what's cool about the whole cultural connection thing, and I value everything that my people are doing, is they'll take a prompt or a stored problem out of the book, and if they don't like it, they're editing it. And so, for example, Miss Everson was doing one that was talking about, I'm sorry, Miss Cleaver, about scientists and all this stuff, but she turned it into math teachers. She turned it into math teachers with a math club, making sure that the kids made a connection to how it is because of math. But it's anything that the kids can relate to, which is also, in my opinion, I want the kids to be able to give that input, which is why I like the Freyer model. Instead of the teachers coming up with the connections, I would want some more of the kid input. But even then, baby stepping it, I don't want to overwhelm them with it. But that's kind of what I think cultural connection is. What's your thought on it?
No, I was just wondering where the connection was, and then with the sentence stems, could you push? Since you were talking about the story problems, could you push that definition a little bit more instead of just introducing a thought, even how they respond in class to like questions their teachers ask them, using the sentence frame or the sentence starter to answer the questions, which may help them with those story problems, and I don't know, just practicing the format.
I've always thought about generating questions as an issue too. Like students generating questions, but that could also be used to do that, right?
It's one of our major tweaks that students struggle with, generating questions.
So we use something called student questions for purposeful learning.
Okay.
And for cultural connections in science, we have the a lot of real world applications. So them being able to see something engaging, like we're moving into viruses, them being able to see how viruses spread, somebody sneezing in the air, and then the students are able to create their questions that they have, and they can use those questions to create sentence stems, because you're answering the questions that other students have about how viruses are spread, and then you kind of can see what the student knows about a virus and what viruses they don't know. Like if we threw Ebola up there, do we know about that? But somebody will say like COVID, yes. So how do I keep from getting COVID or things like that?
Yeah.
So they can see cultural connections in that way. So I don't know for math, as far as you like throwing up a picture or a prompt of, like you said with the shoes, creating a shoe, how much would I sell this shoe for? How much money would I make if I sold this shoe?
So I like what you said about the real world connection question. Does the biology team, or how often does the biology team display videos? And because it's purposeful, but how often does that happen?
If we're on a new unit, a lot of times the hook may be a short 30-second video. Like if we're doing food web, food chain, and we want to throw in invasive species of the snakes in the Everglades, it's real quick to put in a 30-second snippet of look at all the snakes. What's gonna happen? And the kids are like mind blown. And then they're hooked real quick, like, well, what will happen if I bring an organism from one place and move it to another? But we generally only do that when we're switching to a different topic.
Yeah.
So just to show like the phenomena of the whole unit.
Yeah.
And then as we're teaching bits and pieces and chunks.
No, I love it.
Connections.
I think one of the things that we do in the math department, and it's not enough, is we have the big picture and we know what this math is for, but we don't push the real world piece of it because we're just assuming the text is going to say it, and we're just editing what the text is saying without actually giving a little bit of our own taste to it. So one person did do it, and there's a quote from it in just a second, but I appreciate all the information you just told me. I learned a lot about setting an expectation, being able to understand, does a different population contribute to why or why not the teachers are implementing this stuff. So thank you for that. Going into the questionnaire piece that I gave you all, I signed this questionnaire of their experience. So did you implement it? Why or why not? How did it go? And these are the quotes, which is funny because we're just talking about videos. So looking at the first levels of responses from our 3 people anonymously, I implemented cultural connections by using pop culture in a way where students know math is everywhere. The quote ended up saying how this teacher used Fast and Furious and how the cars are going straight like parallel lines. So the kids were able to say like, okay, straight, not touching, parallel lines. The next person said, we were studying linear equations, so I used scenarios to relate to local cultural events, market prices in different countries, or community projects that reflect students' backgrounds. So that teacher, he took a little step further because he knows his population. He started talking about stuff in Honduras, El Salvador, just bringing it back to where they're from. So it was pretty cool to see that. And then the last person is the example using the Freire model where they are asked to use an academic term, then research with the partner to write down what is being dictated. Yeah. Sentence stems, sentence starters. This is where the population will determine whether or not the teacher is doing it. I did not think this population of students needed it, so I focused more on visual components. I would pose a question, the axis of symmetry could be found blank, and I would have the students elaborate their thinking on paper. And then sentence stem implementation has enhanced my students' writing from brief sentence to more extensive, well-written sentence. Real quick, letting that sink in. What are your thoughts?
So I think for the cultural connections, the second quote, where they use scenarios to relate to local culture events, market prices, I feel like that person definitely did full circle and made sure that it's still appropriate to the content, and that the kids can see, oh, okay, I get it, and it makes sense, and they're not gonna forget that. And he did his prep. He did his prep to see where my kids are from and actually connecting with them individually instead of, I mean, I guess for the first one, like, we know math is everywhere, but how? Is it, yeah, like, for what we're learning in Algebra 1, where is it? Because a lot of times, you know, you'll hear kids say the same thing in English. What do I need this for? I'm not going to do this again. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then for the sentence starters, so my issue, of course, English, the first one, I don't think this population of students need it, so I focus more on visual components, because the idea is that it's just a scaffold for students that struggle, and not, it can push, because where they said elaborate the thinking and more extensive, because I know y'all have to show work in math, and so now explain your work, and explain your work in a full sentence or paragraph frame if that's your AP GT kids. Like, tell me, explain your work and how does it relate in the real world. I mean, there's a connection to make sure, so I would push that teacher to expand, because maybe that's also a cry for help, confusion, to see how, they may not know how to really implement it, so it's easy to say that they don't need this is math, and move on.
I would also level set with that teacher, because if they're saying that their population of students don't need it, give me an exemplar of what type of sentences they're giving you, or so that we can both agree that they don't need it. Because sometimes just answering the question, very brief statement, may be all that a teacher is looking for. But if we're wanting the students to elaborate and expand, just to make sure that they don't actually need the sentence stem. Especially with, for us, we have those short constructive responses.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to completely explain your answer.
And I think that's one of the things that my team is having a hard time of breaking. That what we do in our classroom, okay, great, yeah, we're gonna do numbers, we're gonna do technology, and we're gonna make sure we get the answer. But could we imagine the impact if we switch a little bit and have the kids explain? Not only does that help us know that they understood it, but it transfers to you, because the kids know how to read, write, and do all that stuff, and it also helps you all too. So,
and you're able to cut down on that teacher talk, and it's more student-led, student-centered.
very good. So, my biggest takeaways, which is right there on the bottom. We are continuously working on the cultural connections to make the math content more meaningful to our students. My fear is the constant adjusting and relationship building with a new group of students next semester. That's my biggest fear, because I feel that once my people meet our new students, they're gonna shut down and not wanna do it and just try it, and we're gonna go backwards instead of forwards. That's what I'm scared of. And then for sentence stems, that's our biggest area of improvement, because we're very inconsistent with the idea, and we can't assume that our students don't need it. I do appreciate and value everything y'all just said, because I do think we need to push the kids to be able to relate it on their own to the real world. And then I do like the whole, give me an example, give me the evidence to show that the kids are giving you exactly what they want, and let's push the elaboration. So, very cool. Thank you so much. Tell me.
So, with the fear, with the adjusting in the relationship, maybe there's an opportunity with the flex as we get to finals. I mean, to meet them, to see. So, and I mean, it may help or not, but then the other part where, assuming that our students don't need it, maybe since we just had that elevation training last week from our multilingual coach, maybe them looking at their, going back through looking at their individual data, the students that will be sitting in their class, then having them, hey, let's go back through those lessons and let's go through and add some support, some language content support, like content language support into our lessons, and maybe they won't be as resistant because it's not starting over. They're getting some time right now to prep for that next population coming in these last couple of CBPLs.
And maybe with your exit slips, you have a short constructive response, then you can really pull them up and see what the students are writing.
Because what doesn't get monitored?
Even if it's as simple as like, what did you learn today?
Quick
Right?
write. And how can this be used in everyday life?
Now, question. If I did short constructive responses and my people just want to see the grade, right? They just want to see the data. They have to grade it, right? They have to go in and just put like a 1. Or could I?
Schoology. If you don't want them to have to go and grade, if you want to see that it's being done and you don't want the district looking at it too, you can put it in Schoology.
Okay, cool.
And another thing with your fear,
Tell me.
I know the group they're coming from language arts. So I don't think it'll be like starting from ground zero when it comes to a sentence stem. So they should know what a sentence stem is, so it's not like you're starting off fresh, brand new with.
And they
that
expect it.
expectation.
They expect it. Those whiteboards, go ahead, put it in here.
Sentence stems exist.
And it's gonna be really for them because they also have Topaz coming up.
So
Students Topaz testing in February.
I don't want us to get too distracted, but I was just thinking about that, and I know that's gonna take away 2 days from us at least, right?
At least I'm thinking more because we need a different set plan.
Yeah.
We need a smaller group plan, but I hadn't brought that to the group.
Thank you for the information.
You're welcome. I mean, it's just a thought, right?
It's just a thought. Nugget of a thought.
All right.
Because like we need to talk about it.
We do.
The principal's looking.
Okay. So moving into the next piece, and we only got about 13 minutes left, so we're doing an excellent job. This is the evidence of where I saw across the board, we're not even trying to put in sentence starters. Okay? I kind of want to teach y'all. How do y'all feel about that?
So, could you tell me first, where would you want a sentence stem at? Do you want it when they get ready to answer the question, or is it an opportunity to add a turn and talk? Like, where's the discussion?
So, I leave it up to them. But during CBPL, we go over almost everything very specifically to make sure we all know how to do the math, making sure that we understand what's being expected, and then the biggest thing is, how are you going to know that kids understand? Now, Carnegie Learning is very, very good about throwing in little pieces or opportunities for them to write. So, anytime I see the word describe throughout the lessons, I always circle it on our thing. I say, guys, this is the perfect part for them to explain what's going on. Why not say, I think, ... at least, just so the kids are saying, oh, I think this is going to happen, or I think the function changed from this to this. And I can show you real fast, just because I think it'll be interesting, and I can't wait to see your faces and your, confusion, but then you can be like, oh wait, no, it's not too bad.
While you're pulling that up, do you think, because I do find a lot of times when people don't do things, it's because they don't understand. Do you think that maybe the other tool we went over last week with Magic School and the story problems and sentence starters would be beneficial for you to go through in detail with your team and just plugging in the problems and it generating sentence stems? And that way, here's a set of sentence stems. That's something we used to use in ELA. We used to have a set of sentence stems depending on the type of question we're asking. So it was easy for teachers to go and just pull from like a word bank, a sentence bank, and plug them into lesson plans.
I love that idea, so I think I'm gonna push that probably Thursday. So, I'm just gonna ask you all to describe what happens from the first graph, which is called my parent function right here. You don't have to worry about anything. All we're doing is,
I'll be in your inclusion class.
yeah, I know, you're gonna start freaking out.
Doing math, yeah, well, whatever they do in that class.
That is my parent function.
Okay.
Okay, it's a U-shape called a parabola.
So, I'm gonna play that too. What would that, is the parent function the main one?
No.
Is it the parent?
So,
And the rest are like, they come from that one?
correct.
So parent, so content language supporting the sentence, them understanding what that means.
Love it. Now, this is the parent function for quadratics, right? There's upper different type of functions, but this is the main one that we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. Okay. This lesson's over transforming this parent functions, which goes into the new function, and it labels it right here. There's two examples, but we're gonna focus in on this one called b of x. Okay, f of x is the father, b of x is the little baby boy. Okay, so dad decides to have a baby called Bruce, and Bruce has different types of characteristics, which is the -2 and that +1. What happened? It flipped upside down. I love it. And it got a little narrower. Now, could you write that out where I ask you to describe?
The new function.
The new function. Hold on real quick. So where did it go?
You told us a name for the new function.
Correct. So the new function, we could call him b of x, is doing what again?
It's upside down.
Is upside down. And
Narrower than the parent function. Oh, Q. So
Do we want to give them a word bank? Are there certain vocabulary words that they use on the STAR test, such as inverted?
That way they are practicing using the right
those
terms.
words.
now question. So if I were to implement a word bank, where would I put that word bank?
You could do an anchor chart in your classroom.
And if you, for differentiation, as one of your teachers stated, maybe not all of the students need it, but for the ones that need it, maybe on just a little half sheet, you have a word bank. Only those kids get the word bank. Or the sentence stems. And also the sentence stems can be leveled. So based on where they're classified for a TEL pass, their sentence stems may be simplified or more extensive.
And that way your teachers, when they're checking for understanding, can be checking that academic vocabulary is being used. And that's a quick check as they're going through. And maybe that's also part of them knowing what they should be looking for.
I love that. So, just wanted to show y'all the evidence of, great, I'm glad that you know that this is where the location is going to happen for the new points. If you were going to create new points, the kids are going to have the visual. You all were able to say it, but being able to generate an actual sentence with keywords, key vocabulary. Thank you for the word bank suggestion. Thank you for the half sheet with the word bank and or sentence stems. I am going to look into the Magic School. I appreciate that. But even then, for it to be across the board is a little concerning. I do like the little questions that are added because you do want to get it, but these are questions that are one-word responses. And I want us to increase our level, which will help with the elaboration piece for our kiddos.
So your teacher that responded and said, I just give the visuals and not the sentence stem, is that the visual? that they were giving them?
Correct.
So just typing it into Desmos and
Correct.
now, okay, so that's not really teaching them how to.
Correct. Interesting, right? So, what types of support is done in ELA and biology to ensure that we are meeting the district expectations? So of course, the plan rolled out, right, which is where I pulled the cultural connections from, the sentence starters from. What do you all do for your people that hopefully get this done in the English and biology classrooms?
Academic vocabulary, focus on that, sentence stems, sentence frames, dictionary usage. I feel like it all, if I separate it all with ELA, discourse cards. And
I'm saying especially during the unpacking portion, that is a section, cultural connections, where we discuss, well, what is going to be the cultural connection for our populations? What's gonna be that one thing where most students will be like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Our new push is careers in science. So as I told you, we're moving on to viruses. So when we were unpacking, our cultural connection was, how can I make money from learning this information? So how much do the people who work at CDC make? And is it, if this information is easy for me to grasp, what would be my major when I go to college? What would I study? Career path. As far as the sentence stems in the discourse, of course, we pre-write our questions out. The central questions are already written out. It's just taking those and creating a stem. What would I expect my students to say? If they're having issues, what would get them started? And then we talked about the elevation strategies of using the ABBA strategies, where student A is asking the question, student B is answering, and then they get to switch and ask the question and answer.
You know, talking about elevation, Miss Ashley Cleaver, we do have a little bit of time.
Shoot, like let me see what I can do.
Let's look to see what that was that you mentioned, the ABBA. Over here. Oh, you want to take over?
Sure.
There you go.
Let's see.
Y'all are awesome. I appreciate you so much.
So let's see if we just go to sensors. Let's see. So there is a part where you can just find the activities. I always struggle because with certain access you can't get right to it. But our teachers.
Are you saying my access is not that good?
No. Our teachers, because you get that home screen with everything and every kid who's an EB, they don't get all of that. They usually have a side profile that has like the different activities and instructions they can use. So for a sentence,
what is that video of those little kids doing?
They modeled the strategy so that you can see it in action.
Oh.
Right. So here is always, let's see. So that one, let's look for one. So one that
Hanging hashtags.
yes, where we've started just to build background and experiences. So it's gonna tell them how to do the activity during the activity. It's gonna tell you what to watch out for. How do you know that it was successful? Over here, it's gonna give you the Word doc of what it could look like, so they don't have to create that. Then here it's going to tell you which students need high support. So when they're grouping students and partnering students, they can look over here to determine who needs what. And each teacher will see their students, so they'll know, okay, these 5 students need to be grouped together, these don't, or for, in English, we call them like our language groups. So our beginner and intermediate, or our intermediate with an advanced student. And then like when you go to, let me see.
And it'll also let them know who needs
The
this
support.
support.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At
and
what
who doesn't.
level?
And so here, then you can go here, and it's something we can use in all subjects, but just for math, and you put the grade level 9 and 12, so then it tells you what this looks like in math,
Whoa.
so that it's relevant to what you're discussing. And so it's just gonna give you an idea of how to do it here and give you that math example.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Mooney. I appreciate that. Learned a lot from both y'all. Are there any lasting things that you would like to share with me before I say adios?
I guess keep pushing in this. We know that we in English we struggle with cultural connections on our lesson plan, but kids get so tired of reading and writing, and it requires a lot of prep and reading on the teacher side to figure out what can I find embedded in this to connect. But it's a push for us, and hoping, this next batch of kids will get,
They're coming, they're gonna be awesome.
be
Now,
engaged.
I can't promise you the level of sentence stems that they're, used to.
And it'll look different for this group, because the same sentence stems we would give the group leaving us is not the ones we give
Correct.
the ones coming.
Correct. I love that. Thank you so much, Ms. Amber. Anything lasting comments, Ms. Ashley?
No, I would just be interested to follow up with you after you meet with the team about
Circle
what
back.
you observed, and what their plan is to increase the usage.
Yeah. Of course, I would definitely share that information with you. All right. Well, thank you all very much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you. Over and out.